Dolls have existed for nearly as long as modern humans and have held a variety of roles in society. In ancient Greece and Rome, they were used not only as children's toys, but were also believed to hold a magical and ritual value. When Greek and Roman girls got married, they would offer their dolls to the goddess, symbolizing the end of their youth. In the 21st century, thanks to research, we can now understand the importance playing with dolls has in a child's development. Caring for dolls helps to teach children responsibility and how to process their emotions, such as empathy and compassion. Psychologists increasingly believe that a child's doll is seen as a reflection of themselves, a harmless way to teach children about the world around them and their role in it. And how children treat their dolls can offer insight into a child's psychological health. This is the story of one doll, who came into being before any of this was commonly known. A trailblazer and ahead of his time, this doll was created specifically to heal a gap in society, teach social acceptance and self-love, and to help normalize an entire group of people, and in so doing, making the world a little less scary for everyone. Today, Gay Bob might look like a 1970s stereotype, with his lumberjack shirt, gold chain, and leather man bag, but he was anything but stereotypical. The brainchild of a former marketing executive, Harvey Rosenberg, Bob came out of a particularly rough time in Rosenberg's life. His mother was very ill, his marriage had collapsed, and he was dealing with being open about his sexuality, which up until then he had kept secret from most of the world.
Kids here, and if we catch you with a homosexual, the rest of your life will be a living hell. And you will be caught. Don't think you won't be caught.
At the time, there was still a lot of misunderstanding of what being gay meant. He was first released in 1977, which was only 4 years after the American Psychiatric Association had removed homosexuality as a form of mental illness, and 8 years after the Stonewall riots. There was still a profound amount of stigma associated with homosexuality, but with organizations such as the Gay Activists Alliance of Washington becoming more visible, and with candidates such as Kathy Kozachenko, Harvey Milk, and Frank Kameny running for office, the gay rights movement was gaining traction in America.
The Gay Activist Alliance is the largest and most vocal of several homosexual groups. Bruce Veller, a research biologist at the Rockefeller Institute, is president.
I think the movement is very much an attempt by those of us who are openly and accepting of our homosexuality at getting people to accept for themselves, getting gay people to accept themselves as worthy and good human beings.
The gay rights movement was gaining traction in America, but it still faced a lot of opposition, and anti-homosexual organizations such as the Christian Voice and the American Family Association sprang up in response. In January 1977, the same year Bob was released, Dade County, Florida enacted an ordinance outlawing discrimination based on sexuality. By June, it had been repealed by a campaign spearheaded by the singer Anita Bryant, who fixated on the danger of homosexual teachers, stating, "Homosexuals will recruit our children, they will use money, drugs, alcohol, any means to get what they want."
God to revive America. And when word came that there was an ordinance in Miami that would allow known homosexuals to teach my children, God help us as a nation to stand in these dark days. There are many evil things that would claim, under the disguise of discrimination and under civil rights, would claim the civil rights of our children.
The media attention around this led to similar ventures in Oregon, Kansas, and California. The gay rights movement was quickly becoming a battlefield, desperately in need of some levity. And thus enters our miniature hero, Gay Bob, who was firmly out and proud. In an interview in 1978, Rosenberg would describe Bob as looking like a cross between Paul Newman and Robert Redford. He stood 13 inches tall, had a variety of outfits which were sold separately, and was 100% anatomically correct. The box he came in was designed to resemble a closet, so when he was removed from it, he was literally coming out of the closet. Also in the box was his fashion catalogue, which contained the following message. Hi boys and girls and grown-ups, I'm Gay Bob, the world's first gay doll. I bet you are wondering why I come packaged in a closet. Coming out of the closet is an expression which means that you admit the truth about yourself and are no longer ashamed of what you are. Gay people use this expression, coming out of the closet, to explain that they are no longer afraid or ashamed of being gay and no longer hide the fact. Gay people are no different than straight people. If everyone came out of their closets, there wouldn't be so many angry, frustrated, frightened people. People who are not ashamed of what they are more lovable, kind, and understanding. It's not easy to be honest about what you are. In fact, it takes a great deal of courage. But remember, if Gay Bob has the courage to come out of his closet, so can you. Rosenberg's message was clear. He wanted to liberate men from traditional sexual roles and encourage people to love themselves regardless of what society says. He was quoted as saying, "We had something to learn from the gay movement, just like we did from the Black Civil Rights Movement and the women's movement. Having the courage to stand up and say, I have the right to be what I am." Just like the movement he symbolized, Bob caused a storm of controversy. Lobby group Protect America's Children were fervently against the doll, saying, "It's another evidence of the desperation the homosexual campaign has reached in its efforts to put across the homosexual lifestyle, which is a death style, across to the American people." When columnist Ann Landers received a letter from a concerned reader about Bob, his existence, and how he would lead to other disgusting dolls like Priscilla the prostitute and Danny the dope pusher, she simply stated, "I'll believe it when I see it." Bob also won the Dubious Achievement Award in 1978 from Esquire magazine. But none of the negative press seemed to affect Bob's popularity. Rosenberg sold 2,000 dolls in the first 2 months of operation, and originally it had been sold by mail order from gay-themed magazines. It would eventually grace the shelves of several boutiques in New York and San Francisco. Rosenberg also had meetings with major department store chains, one of which was extremely keen, but in the end, Bob was too ahead of his time for them. Ann Landers herself ended up eating her words when Bob spawned his own family of dolls, though none of them were named Priscilla or Danny. They did include brothers Marty Macho, Executive Eddie, Anxious Al, and Straight Steve, and sisters Fashionable Fran, Liberated Libby, and Nervous Nellie. Since Bob, there have been other out and proud dolls, such as Rogic, and Billy the Doll, but Gay Bob will forever remain the first, and his sweet, innocent message of love and acceptance remains as relevant today as ever. For his efforts of making the world a more accepting place, we, sir, salute you. Hello and welcome to my second video. My first one was on Bible John, so I wanted to do something a little bit more light-hearted and show a bit of the kind of variety I want to have on the channel. I really liked the idea of Gay Bob. Like, his message just spoke to me, and I just think that Rosenberg was a genius, and I think the gay rights movement really, it needed kind of a bit of levity, because I mean the stuff was getting real in the 70s, and I just think it was a lovely way to help alleviate all the panic, I guess. And I do really believe that he was a trailblazer and that he was ahead of his time, because if you look at it now, all the fuss people give about Barbie being unrealistic and giving an unrealistic image to young girls, and how Barbie has come out with a hijab, and the unrealistic expectations that she has, and giving her proper jobs, not just like Ken's girlfriend, but that, you know, that she can be a lawyer and she can be an astronaut and she can do all the things that she wants to do. I think that Rosenberg, in a way, he was speaking to himself, and he was talking to the little boy in himself and going, you know, it's all right. And I just love that idea, and I love the message, and I just love the whole thing. And I think a lot of the dolls that came after it were kind of a little bit risque, and although Bob was anatomically correct, I mean, he wasn't that risque. He was just like, hello, I'm gay and it's okay. Like, and I just really liked the message behind him. And to be honest with you, researching him this week is really kind of like, it's just put me in a great humor, because I just think he's adorable. I just adore him. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back next week with a new video, hopefully, with any luck. So I'll speak to you soon.